Oh, sweet. We're on. We're back. We're fucking back.
We are live.
It's been a long time coming, hasn't it? But it's good to be back. How is everybody? Conan, Christian, Troy?
Well,
I'm good.
good.
You're doing good.
Doing good. Well, everyone's
Doing good. It's been a long time between non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah. I wish I could say the same. Mine are all alcoholic, mate. But anyway.
Jeez.
That's good. But so we were going to have a chat today about coming out of COVID. It's pretty relevant. I think it's a good topic. Last time we spoke, we were all, speaking about the dramas of COVID. So I think it's a pretty good topic, and I think everyone here's got some pretty good stuff to say about it. So, no.
Let's hope so.
Who wants to kick us off?
Yeah, well, I sort of look at it as like the social anxiety. Even people that didn't have it before may find they're actually having it now. They've been in their safe haven, they've been locked away at home, and now they're coming out of it. So I think understanding a little bit about that's a good idea. So I like to look at it as there's three sort of sides to that. There's behavioral. Yeah. So like avoidance, so avoiding going to somewhere. Yeah. There's physical, so what's happening to your body, so heart rate, sweating, stuff like that, and cognitive, so your thoughts, what ifs, and stuff like that. So they're the three sort of dynamics I find that sort of need to be tackled. So CBT is a really good thing for something like that, and like reframing and that sort of thing. Yeah. So I think knowing them three things is a good foundation to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah,
it's a reframe, just in case no one knows.
Yeah, and for everyone who doesn't know, like CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's just Google it. There's plenty of stuff on there. Sorry, Troy.
Gold standard.
No, you're all right. So like reframe. So what's a good example? So instead of saying, "What if this happens when I go somewhere?" you might just say, "Well, that probably wouldn't happen." And it's just looking at things from a different perspective. There are better ways to explain it, but at the minute.
Looking at the brighter side of things more so, isn't it? It's not trying to look at the bad sides of everything and try and look at the upsides. You try. That's what you want to do. Yeah.
Kind of like trying to use logic to outdo yourself with other logic, almost. Like I always use this example because it's very relevant to me. The uni doing really poorly on a unit or an exam. I often think, geez, maybe just uni's not for me and I'm a bit stupid for it. And then someone goes, well, hang on, maybe it's just the fact that stats is pretty hard. It's a hard unit. And this is a very relevant example for me in the last week or so when I got my results. Maybe it's just hard and you didn't quite prepare yourself enough instead of you being stupid. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool. I'm still stupid, but no, not really. But yeah, that's a good example. It's tough. That's probably the one I always think of as a reframe. It's not always like, it's kind of like using flawed logic to view the world. And these things always happen because I'm involved or, when really you're not that special, that can kind of help. It's a bit of a reframe. You don't control things.
I like that one.
Yeah. Instead of what if something happens, what about what if nothing happens?
Yeah. What if a good thing happens?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my most famous, one of my favorite reframes is when people say I'm nervous or scared. My favorite reframe is, could you be excited? They're actually the same feeling, different connotation.
Yeah, for sure. And
there's a big difference.
It's funny because they teach so emotional regulation. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the 4 zones, like the zones of regulation. They're all color coded in that. I'm not going to run through them all, but there's red, blue, yellow, and green, and they all have particular emotions which are all very similar in a similar family. So I do a lot of it with kids, doing it with my young fella. They do a lot of it there at school. They do a lot of it at his appointments and that. And that's true. There is a lot of like the yellow zone, let's say, there's a lot of feelings that are very, very similar to each other. They're quite hard to differentiate. And they can be perceived quite differently in kids. Kids will think that like, I don't know, fidgety and a bit silly is similar to like nervous and anxious. So it's hard to like, so if we're going to try and define them and differentiate them and say, well, that's actually a normal feeling. It's good. Like it's good education. I find those really, really useful.
Yeah, there's another thing out there called a emotion wheel. So for most people coming out of complex trauma or that have any sort of trauma, where if somebody asks you how are you, it's good, bad, sad, happy. They're the main four. You basically won't get any other four out of people like that. So there's a thing called emotion wheel, and it's got your four, and then that breaks off into like a pie chart of all these different ones, and then that breaks off again, and it gives you, I don't know, 100 or so different emotions that you probably are actually feeling instead of just one of those four.
On one of four.
So,
Good.
That's so you can just Google that, and it's really good because it helps you unsuppress or read your own emotions better.
That's what people struggle with, isn't it? Like they feel an emotion, they think it could be, something bad, but a lot of people don't realize like it is natural to feel these things. It would be unnatural if you didn't feel these things. So, it's just how do you control them? So I think that's something that, some of the stuff we should probably talk about, I reckon, like what we've done, personally to make us, get through these times, because every one of us have been in different situations. So what are you been up to, Conan, getting through this COVID? I know last time you said you were doing a lot of exercising and stuff like that and hanging out with a few mates.
I mean, pretty much. I just want to say I've been taking some notes here, and everything what everyone's just said is like totally relevant. And I've been doing what you guys have just been saying. So resetting my expectations is a big one. I don't, and taking everything day by day is another good one. And that's, we're talking about negative thinking and stuff versus positive thinking. And if you think too far ahead, like what I do a lot, you can get caught in a rut and you don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next minute or what we're going to expect. Yeah, we're coming out of COVID, but we don't know what's going to happen. So lots of reframing, glass half full thinking all the time as much as possible. And there's been some benefits of change. So one of them is gyms open, and pools open. So I'll try and go to the pool nearly every day. Which I really missed and really hurt my mental health not having that, and I couldn't replace it properly. So getting back into all those things that used to keep me going that are now available, most of them. Changing habits like drinking less, coping habits, drinking less, smoking less, things that I thought would help me get through COVID that did only work for about 2 or 3 months and then took me in the wrong direction. So changing any of those things. And I just want to say one more thing. We're talking about the anxiety of coming out of COVID.
Mate. Say what you got to say.
Yeah, this is the last thing.
Say it all, brother.
I came, thank you. I went to the beach on Monday, and it was the first day that they let the Ring of Steel, because I live on the coast. And it was beautiful. It was probably about 200 people on the beach. Everyone was really, really happy, and they were all doing the same thing. They were going, thank God I'm out of the city. People would walk up to the beach and go, oh my God, look how beautiful it is. And there was one guy sitting at Change-Ups on the seat there and on the phone, and I overheard his conversation, and he goes, I'm feeling anxious about not being anxious. So he'd driven all the way to the beach, looked at the water, rang his mate and said, I can't believe I'm not anxious. It's giving me anxiety. So I just went, oh my God, what does that even mean?
That's common.
But so that was just the thing. Like it is a bit like experiencing anxiety. And I've just fallen back into what works for me. I mean, what have you guys been doing? What works for you guys?
Yeah, no, that's
not caffeine. Caffeine, but I still drink it by the bucket load.
What's the saying? Caffeine for when I want anxiety, only faster.
I totally grasp that. That's interesting though. That's funny because I think even like what we're talking about, when you get used to certain feelings that aren't there anymore are foreign. You're just like, I'm not used to this. Like safety. I feel safe. I don't like that. It's uncomfortable. I some of the stuff we talked about last time, like I've been doing therapy, and it's just become a little bit more trauma-based, vagal nerve types of like pro-social engagement type of stuff, because I didn't realize how much of a struggle that was for me. And oftentimes if I feel safe in environments because I can and I should, that feels weird and I don't like it. So I try and back away or get out of there generally. I think we spoke about that a bit today, like just fleeing the scene kind of basically. And it's weird. You've got to like get used to being able to tolerate the sensation, because that's really all it is. It's a sensation and it's a feeling. It's not, it's not going to kill you. You're not going to die, even though it feels like it sometimes. If anyone has suffered, anxiety attacks or panic or any of those things, it does feel like you're going to die. You're going to stop breathing and you're going to die right there. And then you start hyperventilating, and that obviously causes you to get more anxious and hyper aroused and stuff. But I found that, where was I going with that? I think I found that, you got to learn to tolerate them, because, and I've found, especially like the caffeine stuff, I notice, like I've said that to my therapist before, like I know that I drink way too much caffeine. It doesn't help my anxiety. But at the same time, I like coffee. So I just try and do things like, man, it's like throwing petrol on a fire. It's just kind of one of those things that I probably rely on a bit. When I get excited, I want to drink coffee. When I get tired, I want to drink coffee. When I get it's just a kind of go-to thing. I think I used to be very much like that with drugs and alcohol. If I'd get hyper aroused and a little bit excited, a little bit yellow zone for anyone who's looked up the zones of regulation, I'd want to go out and just start smashing booze, smashing drugs, and just being an absolute dickhead. So I found that that's still there. I went and did a San Pedro ceremony about a couple of years ago now, 3 years ago, up in a forest in Malden somewhere. And it came in, the guy who brewed the cactus and that, and it's a whole sacred ceremonial thing and all of that. And I did it with a mate of mine, and I said, we left the weekend. He said, how was that? And I said, man, I haven't changed at all. So I took as much of that shit as I could possibly get into my system. Said, come on, mate, bring it. Just bring it. I'll take it, all of it. Like whatever you got, I'll have it all. So I find that I still fight against a lot of those kind of reach like the pinnacle of the emotional spectrum that I have. And sometimes I really have to be aware that it's there. So I use CBT as well, and probably breath work, just trying to really get myself out of those positions. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. And sleeping, sleeping's a coping mechanism for me. It really is. Like when I get stressed, I've had a few things to deal with today, I get really tired and all I want to do is go to bed, and sleep it off. Like I've used that for years and years. So that's pretty much like, it's probably a better coping mechanism than other things that I've done before. Yeah. But I find sleeping is really therapeutic to reset the central nervous system.
Yeah. It calms you down, gives your body a break, lets you reset, as you just said. It is. It's healthy, but then you just, at least how much you're doing, because you don't want to be sleeping 20 hours a day. But
I used to.
Yeah, there you go.
I think as soon as something starts impacting your life, that's when it becomes an issue.
For sure. Yeah.
So I used to disassociate into my phone when I was really stressed, or scrolling, nothing. Disassociate into books, into TV, all that sort of thing. And the thing that I struggle with is, like you said, he was getting anxious about being anxious. I didn't know it at the time, but most of us out of complex trauma or BPD, stuff like that, your emotions are all extreme, up and down. Your whole life is high and lows. You're always searching for the next high. And then when you're up high enough, you self-sabotage so you get the low so you can chase the high again. Mainly because normal people live on a flat plane like this and being content, but we're chasing happiness. Happiness is always up high, instead of being content. So when we come down to content sort of naturally, we don't like that because it's boring. If anybody says they're bored, this is what they're talking about. They're hitting the content bit for a little bit, and they don't like it. So next to self-sabotage comes, so you can drop down, so you can search for that high again. And that it's important to get used to that content bit, which I probably would call now, looking back, was my anxiety bit. Because I know now that if everything's going sweet, then, drugs, alcohol, for me, I start to go, well, maybe I could do it again.
Yeah.
Start to justify that away. I'm okay. Yeah. So I've been clean for that long. I can give it another crack and I'll be sweet, because I want that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to be down here so that I can try and get them goals and be chasing something again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Wow.
So with the breathing work, I'll always be like, so I'm feeling content right now. Okay, I'm starting to feel destructive, or what I'd call sort of anxious for me.
Mm.
So then I breathe, ground myself, and I think to myself, which reality am I in right now? This one. I'm not in what if. I'm not in should, could, would. I'm not in any of them. They're all bad words,
Yeah.
you know? So as soon as I start feeling like that, ground myself. There's lots of mindfulness techniques you can use for that. Yoga, especially. Gym. Gym's one of my big go-to. I'm lucky that I have a gym. Because when you look at anxiety, at the behavioral stuff, so, well, all of it, okay, what happens? Your heart rate goes up, you start sweating. What happens when you work out really hard? Your heart rate goes up, you start sweating.
Yeah.
It's hard to breathe, both anxiety, working out. So working out's very important to help regulate your emotions when you're doing that, because if you're getting really extreme bad anxiety, it can lead to a panic attack, right? Because your heart's getting faster, then you start thinking, oh no, I'm going to have a panic attack. Then you get more anxiety about having a panic attack.
Yeah.
But if you're used to your heart rate going 4,000 miles an hour because you've just deadlifted something massive, and that you're not going to die, you're not going to have a panic attack, so you don't actually stress about it, because the exercise has taught you that sweating, breathing hard, heart rate is okay.
Mm.
So you're not panicked. Yeah.
Body.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, what I've been doing a lot of bit different, I guess. Like I haven't, I've just poured myself into work, and because the only thing to get me out of the house during COVID was work, and so I just smashed it. I just got right into it. Working flat out pretty much. Then, doing this study, it's been harder for me. I've been on my own. You guys got to go back into class in the group, like probably last week, 2-3 weeks ago.
Couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but to be honest, like I've been quite productive. It's a little bit harder for me to grasp some of the stuff. So, I'm asking a lot more questions, but at the same time, I feel like I'm getting a lot of stuff done. Pouring a lot of time into the volunteer side at what I'm doing. And it's, paying rewards, so seeing big changes at the Cloverdale Community Centre where I'm at, and, being involved on their committee, which has been very, very humbling, actually, to be honest. Doing something I've never ever had any sort of part to do with. So I'm learning something new every day, So, but
Good, man.
yeah, it is. It's good, but at the same time, you start to get tired. And like, so for the last 3 months of doing this, it's pretty much a 6-day week. You haven't got any time to yourself, and then you start getting tired. And I've noticed that. And anyway, so my sister and her partner and my little nephew, they asked me about going away for Christmas. What am I doing? And anyway, and I was just thinking about it. I'm like, I need a holiday. I think I spoke to a Christian about this a while back. I said, I can't wait for a holiday. And so when they asked, I'm like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I booked a cabin up at this lake. So I'm going to be up there for Christmas, New Year's, and can't wait, mate.
Take the PS5.
Nah, fuck the PS5. I've got plenty of time to play that bloody thing. But how's that coming out of COVID? And I just get a PlayStation 5.
Bullshit. I saw a couple of mates today say that. Thanks for the freedom, but I actually really want to go back into lockdown now.
Yeah, but that's what I. But I did take a bit of time out and had a good think about what it is. I know school's going to be finished soon. That's going to be I don't know, Christmas time. I think you said Christmas.
Yeah.
Christian. Yeah. So I mean, that's another tick off the box that I'll be done with. Work. I can pretty much, work as much as I want or as little as I want. But but I'm just going to take a good couple of weeks and just reset. So
enjoy yourself.
I have that, the goal. So you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. When you don't have that, there's nothing to aspire to or work towards. So I feel like that's something crucial. There's nothing wrong with working hard and, doing stuff, but you got to take time out for yourself. So I advise everyone to have a good think about that. Anyone who's listening,
Definitely.
anyone who gives a shit, but just actually sit back and just take stock of what's going on.
It's an interesting point. I think that the goal thing, especially, like we did touch on that last time, and it's all about a lot of the stuff that we study and a lot of the stuff we work on is that people need to have goals, but then you can be so busy setting goals that you just, I don't know, you're just trying to attain all the time. But I'll tell you, like for people who, I don't know if you guys have been in this scenario before, and I'm sure you probably have maybe in your younger days or even maybe now. I think that when you don't have anything to aspire to, and you can't really, you're just spinning your wheels day in, day out, going around, and you're not even sure who you are, what you're doing here, if there's a place for you, all of those kinds of things. It's not a nice place to be.
No,
I think that you've got to have it. You've got to have. Yeah, well, yeah, for years, for a long time, especially for me, it's one of those things where you wonder what can you do? What can you do there? What do you do when if you're trying to implement some form of goal where the person can at least has sight of what's in front of them rather than just always, because a lot of people sometimes living in the now is funny. Like I used to work with a client and I'd be like, this guy had impulse control problems like you wouldn't believe. He had a fleeting thought in his head and he was off. Wouldn't matter. He was just like a very, he didn't really have the capacity to think very long term at all. He was very short term, quick burst of something and I'm doing it. And kids are like that. Like that's a lot of kids. They just see shit and do stuff, or they say something and they do it. Or they throw shit at a fan just to see what'll happen. We've all just decided to
done
do
that.
Shit. Yeah. Same, but many times. But I think that it was funny because he actually used to be in the moment. Like it was, people would say, "Oh, you need to get into the now," and I'd be like, "This kid lives in the now." That's a real worry though, because he's so focused on the now. He's not even thinking or has capacity to think forward at all. How do I get him to think forward enough to start laying down some foundations for goals? And I used to find that was quite challenging.
That's the downside that they don't talk about in the now. If you live in the now 100% of the time, there's no consequences. Yeah. There's nothing. You'll be cheating on your partner. You'll be doing crimes. You'll be doing because nothing else matters. Everything. Why not? Why get off drugs when I can just be in the now and worry about the now later?
And the now is the problem.
People who live in the now are the most self-destructive people. Like all of them, they self-destruct themselves, the people around them, their families. And whether it happens in a day or a year or 2 years, it happens eventually. There's no one who comes out of that one unscathed.
No, for sure. But I suppose probably need a point to what I was saying. What do you guys still have those feelings where you're just kind of like wandering around a little bit aimlessly at times and you're kind of bumping into stuff going, I don't really know what's the point? Not what's the point, like
COVID
in a really nihilistic way. Yeah.
The whole of COVID was just treading water and trying to see what I'd have left at the end.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't going to be what I started with. Yeah. And I was treading water. I was like, what am I going to have left when I get to the end of this? I was in damage control. But that was self-sabotaging as well, which is, there was a bit of like, I was scared of what might happen. And I started fulfilling those fears by thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
So it was starting when the smoke cleared, which is now, I could start rethinking, which is what we're talking about. And we've just been saying, purpose, resetting purpose, having self-care, having time out, resetting purpose, really good time to be doing those things.
Well, looking back in hindsight, have you actually come out how you thought you would have?
And that wasn't
or better than?
No, what I projected is what I got.
Well, that's
pretty much. Like, a lot of it was good, and some of it I should have let go, and I would have been better off. But that's just the nature of it. You can't control everything, and I learned that. I learned something really important about that. About be careful what you think about things, because you'll walk that path. So that was a big learning curve. But
there's a good reframe for you.
Totally.
It's not what bad did happen, it's what you learned from it.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah, that's right. So exactly.
I was about to say the same thing, you know, as long as you learn from what you do, you know, fuck up or, you know, I've done that. Like sitting there during COVID and I got real shitty about, you know, everyone else. Like I thought you guys down in regional Victoria, I honestly, I had a deep-seated like anger for all of you. Like
I think most of Melbourne did for the rest of the country.
like it was bad. Like I used to see people put shit up on social media and like, you know, it was something trivial like, you know, going to the pub for lunch because you could do that for a while there. And I used to sit there and be like, fuck.
Yeah, sorry, I rubbed that in a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you must have really hated me when I went to a 5 for a week.
Well, I shut down a few people on social media. Just time them out for 30 days, you know, because I didn't want to see my friends holiday up in Queensland with Sundays and with their family and traveling around in a comedy and having the hellest time of their life. You know, and I was like, there's only so much of this I can see before I start to get really bitter. So I canned a lot of shit.
That's fine.
But you know what? You knew, and the coping mechanism was to shut it off.
Sure.
In the end, I had a laugh about it. I think I sent Christian a few filthy words, you know, something like that. I hope you drop your beer or something like the non-alcoholic beer or something. I think he sent me a video of a kangaroo jumping around. And I said, I hope it attacks you or something like that. Like, it's all in fun, but, you know, like it's good to see people like, I mean, I'll be honest, I would have been doing the same shit if I was down in regional Victoria. So, but that's what I had to do. I had to sit there and go, well, what would you be doing if you were down there? But so yeah, that's a good thing. And you know what? It's funny how quick people's perceptions and all their everything changes. You know, like everyone up here in Melbourne and you know the metro areas should see them now. Everyone's walking around with a. You know, I even went to the Werribee Plaza the other day. You're not allowed to walk around with no mask, but so many people were. They were just thinking, "Oh, I'm out. I'm free." You know,
yeah.
And
it's crazy, isn't it?
It's like, you know, like they're doing what they're doing them, and that's, you know, I mean, some of them were probably doing it just to spite everyone, but you know, it's a genuine, like you could see the difference in people, and it's just body language. Before you'd go to the supermarket and it was like it was chaos. Now it's back to normal. You know what I mean?
End of days. Yeah.
It's amazing how quick people can change. Like, you know, like just from a government you know thing. You know, wear a mask. You know, now I drive around now and I see people driving by themselves in a car with a mask constantly.
All the time.
And I mean, look, they're doing them. I just think I had a bit of a rant about it, but anyway, like that's them. But it's just funny how quick people can change, and their whole view on everything, and it's just bang, you know. And then all of a sudden, it's back to normal. So it's how people can go about it in a healthy way. You know what I mean? Because changing something so quick and changing back, you know, you develop a routine. It takes roughly 2 weeks once you do it. But if you immediately get told not to, you don't have to, then everyone's sort of in this, you know, zone where they don't know what to do and they feel weird about it. And it's like what Conan was saying before about the bloke who went to the beach and he felt nervous about being there because he in his mind, he's sitting there going, I shouldn't be here because he hasn't been allowed to be there. So it's this catch-22, but it's going to take a few months, I reckon, for people to get back to a healthy mindset, to be honest. And that's a lot of these people are going to need some help. So I definitely advise people to take up these like there's been letters going around. I don't know if any of you guys have, but I got a letter in the mail, and I think it's a really good thing that the members of Parliament and Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, he's got his signature on it. So it's like explaining all the services for mental health. And this is in Victoria. I'm not sure if it's gone Australia-wide or not. I'm tipping it probably would have. But so it gives you all the services. I mean, a lot of them are phone-in ones, but, you know, also people need to know they can take advantage of these 20 now psychologist appointments that you can get through gaining a mental health care plan. And you just get one of them by going to see your general practitioner. So, I mean, it's not often you get – that's you know, you're looking at minimum of $2,000 worth consultations there. So, you know what I mean? Take advantage of it, people. Why not? There's nothing wrong.
900 mil. They've just that was the number they quantified on the news before. 900 million.
Nearly $1 billion.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So again, like it is, as long as, you know, and I think there's a real push to get more practitioners because we have the funding, but not the practitioners always, where you can't get into them. If anyone's tried to get into one, it's a very long wait, generally speaking. If it's a very short wait, you might be lucky, or maybe they're just not quite as competent as some of their peers. But once you get a really good therapist, you don't want to let them go, because as soon as you let them go, they've been swallowed up by someone else or 10 people behind you. So that's something that the continuity, I think, through COVID, like I'm somebody, like we talked about last time, normalizing therapy is such an important thing. And, you know, we're all in therapy or have been in therapy, but I often would just go for a couple of sessions every year or so for a tune-up. But when I really need them.
I love the tune-up.
Yeah. It's a good, it is a good thing. But then I found that, well, exactly. Well,
that's
sometimes.
Right. That's great analogy.
You know what happens if you don't.
Great analogy. You got to check the oil.
Yeah, wow, that's it. But I actually found that one of the things that I did that I've always done is a pattern of mine is that when I really, really need them, because my life's not going so good and I really need to go to them to let myself go, I just don't go. I avoid. I just go, nah, I'm good, mate. I don't need your sessions anymore. But this year I found that's one thing that I've changed probably since COVID is that I've remained constant with the sessions. Last year, I really needed to see him. The day I was supposed to see him, I lost my job. And I was staring at a very uncertain future at the time, coming into Christmas. And I didn't see him. I just said, nah, I don't need you. And I kind of just avoided the whole thing. I think because I was, for various reasons, I think, Troy, you said something today that really hit home. I don't want to look, you go to therapy for therapy and we're supposed to let our guards down. That's kind of the whole point. But that still takes a bit of time. And I didn't really want to let myself be too vulnerable, especially at that time, because I thought, shit, I've lost my job. I'm going to have to really pump myself up here and remain strong so I can forge forward rather than have this guy break me down or whatever the hell he's going to do. And then I'm going to go back vulnerable and I'm going to spend too much time living in it and whatever. Or not looking dumb in front of the therapist. I do that one a lot. One of that old chestnut, like, I better make sure, because, I've got to kind of put a good impression because the guy knows that I kind of work in this space and I'm studying and I better, be smart about it. But a lot of the time, I think that stuff's hard to get past, but you really have to to do the real work, you have to be vulnerable to an extent. And that's hard for a man. And what we're probably, especially for evolutionary purposes, like we said about anxiety and things, they serve an evolutionary function. So they're not anything to be afraid of. They're there to give you alarms or bells or whistles or whatever. But I think for males as well, as much as there's a big culture shift towards normalizing therapy, and we're obviously trying to do that here, and the people that we know and the conversations we have are really, really great. But even still, there's that lagging little, don't break down too hard, mate, because, you got to keep yourself together in front of this bloke, which I find really difficult to get past. I don't know if anyone else does. I can be vulnerable to a point, but also as well, there's only certain people that I'll really let go with. My wife being one of them, thank goodness. So I don't know like how far do you go being vulnerable before you go, that's probably enough. I don't want to be a mess on the floor. I've got to actually get up and live.
It comes back to what you were saying too. You got to find the right person, and it does take the time, and sometimes it might take you 10 of those 20 sessions to even let that guard down. So like, I think it just comes down to trial and error, but don't give up. That's my biggest statement for today. Don't give up.
And do the stuff. If you get given, I can't believe how many people, we've all done it. I do it now still. Go to the physio. Go to the physio.
Mate.
I've done my calf. No worries. Let me do what I do here. But what I need you to do when you go home, I'm not doing any of that at home. This is why I come here. And no one does anything. And it goes on and on. And so how's your calf? It's still buggered. Have you done the exercises? Nah. If you're not going to do the work, it's not going to get done.
Same goes. I know what
you're very similar. Mate. Yeah, it's very similar. And again, I'm guilty of it as well, but you really got to try and implement even the things we're talking about. You've got to really be able to, if you've been given good information and it seems pretty legitimate and it can help you, you've got to practice it, because otherwise you're just not going to see any result or resolution.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
So
Well,
yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I did a post on my page, Complete Health Geelong, you know, and
plug
about
that shit, mate.
yeah, just plugging that shit about being weak. You know, people don't want to train with a bad back because they go, I've got a weak back. Well, it's not going to get strong if you don't train it.
Yeah.
It's the same as being vulnerable, you know. The key to being strong is being vulnerable because you can only stay strong for so long, you know, and you get to a breaking point on that stress curve that I've spoken about before, you know.
Yeah.
If you get past that stress curve, then the breakdown happens. But so you want to keep coming backwards and forwards and just pushing that envelope, but you need to come back and relax all the time too. But so if you look at that as you need to be vulnerable to a certain level to go forward, because you can't deal with anything if you're not vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's when it comes back to that breathing with anxiety and stuff too, because you can't heal it in a stiff body. You know, if you're tense, there's stuff you're not dealing with. So you always need to come back to breathing, come back to nature. It's all that biological stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what they've been doing that shit for years, haven't they? Like all the Japanese and all that stuff, all the Buddhists, the monks, all them. They tell you what, they know their shit. You know,
Hey, it's just early psychology. That's all it is.
But it's not working anyway. We know that already. The amount of people that try and suppress their emotions or not deal with the traumas that they've had is just destroying them, even in old age. Like the numbers of people who have come back from war, you know, 60 years ago that have destroyed relationships with their kids and their marriages, and all of these things will just compound and pile up. They get to the end of their life and they're not doing well, and and you know, you see so many of them that have just been strong for that long that the dam breaks, and then you know, there's nowhere else to go from there.
It happens, and I did that. You know, I was you know, life wasn't the best for me growing up, but I was a fighter, and it was always strong. I was always strong. I never gave up. I always fought. I was always strong. It never showed any weakness. Never showed any any emotion if I could. And it lasted quite a long time. It got me till I was about 17, and then my body said, you know what, too fucking bad. You're done. You're done. Your nervous system can go bye-bye. So, you know, I thought everyone was telling me, be strong, be strong. I was telling myself, be strong, and it was working. But there was a breaking point, you know, and I didn't know that was possible. But it was just like my nerves went too bad. And I was literally standing up. The moment that it happened, I was given a speech to the class on a topic, and I started shaking uncontrollably.
Wow.
And I never shaken in my life. I had nerves of steel. And then at just one moment, the nerves went, and I couldn't get them back without years and years of really hard work. And you know, and that leads us into what we're talking about, is being comfortable with your emotion. So that's about drug addiction and stuff. That's about seeking services and also being vulnerable. It's okay to be comfortable being vulnerable. It's also okay to be comfortable to feel strong afterwards.
That's right.
And emotions can come and go. And the ultimate goal, you know, and I have not attained this or even come close, is to be comfortable in those emotions and just they come, they go. I'm cool in this space. I'm safe, whether it's vulnerability or strength, or I've achieved something awesome or something terrible, it doesn't matter. If you can, and when people turn to drugs, is because they're not comfortable with their emotion in some cases, or how they're feeling, and they just want to break from it. So there's got to be a skilling there that will help you. You know, if you can get a little bit better at understanding and coping with emotion, you won't have to always turn to drugs to do it for you and go back to that loop and reset for as long as it takes. So it's definitely a good thing to talk about and explore and to practice being better at. You know,
that's
it helps relationships as well.
Yeah, it was like when you think about being strong, when you do things that are hard, that's what makes you strong. You know, lifting weights, the heavier shit is, you know, it's hard, so it makes you stronger. Being vulnerable takes strength. Takes incredible strength to do that, because it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. It's not. It is extremely hard. So that's another reason why the more vulnerable you are, the stronger you'll be.
For sure. Oh, and no one can help you if you're not honest. Like I can't help. Like you know, and I'm still like it with my mates. So some of my really good mates, I've known for a very long time. I'm still not totally honest with them about how I'm going. I won't tell them exactly what I'm feeling, what I'm dealing with. Even if I'm dealing with, no, you're good. Even if I'm Awesome.
That's
Priorities.
We're going to be finishing up in
Well,
a minute,
Lenny.
I think, anyway.
If you're not able to go to people, when do you get to move through stuff? Like, it's not, there's certain things that even still would just be like, nah, I won't tell them because for whatever reason, I just don't think I can be totally vulnerable at this moment to this mate. But there'll be certain people that you will go to if you need to. But it's such a, I think there's actually a really great meditation I must recommend for everybody who tunes in or watching or whatever. But one of them, there's a particular meditation. I think it runs for about 9-10 minutes by a guy called John Kabat-Zinn, who's like just a master of trauma-informed mindfulness meditation. He's almost like, I think he's professor of psychology and a Zen master or something. He's just a monster of a person.
A monster.
He's created, for lack of a better word, he's created a meditation called the Mountain Meditation, and there's a few on YouTube. I use one in particular. It's about 9.5 minutes, so it's his meditation, but it's read by someone else. And I use that thing every day, and I've used that now for quite a few years. There's a lot of the stuff we're talking about is very, very similar. That imagery around the mountain and how it represents stillness and strength and presence and being and all of those things, and all the seasons change around it, but it remains itself. That whole thing, that's kind of the crux of a lot of it. But I always find that if I do that every night, pretty much outside of my driveway, just to remind myself, anchor in, bring myself back. I can pretty much recite it word for word now. That's a really powerful way of kind of grounding yourself and getting into your body, and just trying to it takes practice. It's hard work to deal with your emotions. It's hard work to deal with crummy shit. Like, if you're going to get strong and get good at dealing with problems, you have to face problems. There's no other way around it. We have to be faced with adversity, and because the organism is so complex, like our organism itself, the more complicated the organism is, the more problems there are going to be. That's just the nature of design or whatever. So even there's a book called Spiral Dynamics, which is like some life-changing work that really helps understand the nature of individuals and where they are sitting, and based on their level of development or whatever you want to call it. There's different ways of thinking about life in each one of those stages, and each time you move up a grade, let's say, there's more complex problems, but you're better equipped to deal with them because your thinking system and your thinking styles and ways of dealing with it are also better. And it's like people on the very, very poor people have a serious set of problems that they have to deal with, and they couldn't deal with the problems that somebody in the middle class had that can't deal with the problems that somebody with lots of money has. Like, people just assume money is but if you've got money, you can fix everything. Yeah, actually, in actual fact, the problems become far, far worse as you go up the scale. That's the whole thing about it. And even so, we couldn't imagine having to solve problems like, what am I going to eat today? Yeah. Like, what am I going to eat today? Where am I going to sleep? That's a problem I don't want. But then there's other problems that I would have that somebody else. And I remember having this conversation with a guy in a men's group once. He was like, mate, I don't want your life. And I was like, this is from a guy who had no home. No home, no food. And he was like, I couldn't deal with what you deal with on a daily. And I was like, Jesus, like, it really hit home. Like, the sets of problems are unique, but everybody has problems. And the only way we can get strong or strengthen the resolve is to face them and learn different ways of coping and dealing with them. And as you move up the ladder, so to speak, not hierarchically, but
it's just
development. You just get better equipped to deal with them.
It's just development, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it all comes down to that thing. I don't know. Like, I've been to a couple of third world countries in my limited time on this earth, and you do notice. I remember speaking to a couple of people in, I think it was Bali and Fiji, and they had nothing. They had nothing. They had 4 or 5 kids. These people, they worked their asses off, but I've never seen people so happy in my life. And you look at them and you're like, shit, because all they know when they get old, they're going to get looked after by their kids. All they need to do, they need to work every day to make sure there's food on the table, and that's all they need to do. And that's all, and that's what you were saying before. As you get higher on that on the scale, it gets harder and it gets worse and it gets more deadly.
Problems.
It's a new set of problems.
And we're not made to do that. we're made to chase food all day and sleep.
They're hunter-gatherer people. That's
Yeah.
We're hunter-gatherers. We're not made for this new environment that we are. Our brains haven't evolved to anything else,
Yeah.
and
That's
yet
right.
society has.
Yeah, I give both of those a really good crack, though, I must say. And you know what? Though, that's the thing. Like,
with a PlayStation 5, I'm well and truly on that path. You know,
I think another important thing is is for people to note that anxiety is a survival mechanism. Like, it's not, people might shame themselves or guilt themselves for feeling anxiety.
yeah,
You know? Anxiety is there for a reason. It's to keep you safe.
yeah.
That's what it's all designed for. So shaming yourself and
You wanna
stuff
sorry about
yeah.
it.
So that's all right. So and shaming yourself and putting more pressure on yourself is not going to help you at all. Recognize that. All right, I'm feeling a bit of anxiety. Why am I feeling that anxiety? What's out there that can hurt me?
Yeah,
Where's
probably
that
totally
lion
normal.
jumping from behind the tree.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a totally normal feeling for what you should be feeling at the time. Because
Yeah.
whether it's perceived or actual, whether there's
Yeah.
something there or not,
Yes,
doesn't matter. That's the right emotion for what you're feeling at the time.
for
So
sure.
don't shame yourself with that. Don't guilt yourself with that. Recognize it as what it is, and you won't have as much pressure on yourself, and it'll be a lot easier to deal with.
That's
Yeah.
that's a brilliant thing. I reckon that's pretty that's a solid thing to finish on. I reckon.
I think
It's,
so too.
Because we've gone well over time, as we always do when we get four good blokes who just like talking about this sort of stuff. But yeah, Conan's gone off to speak to his young fella, which I don't blame him. I would have done the same.
Me too.
Hey,
Yeah.
I hope it goes well, and hope his little fella's doing good. But yeah, I think we all spoke about some pretty great things today, and I think a lot of people can take some of that stuff out because it's very important. Definitely, like there's some small things in there. Look, there was a few big things in there, but don't be afraid to get on Google and have a look at some of the stuff that Troy and Christian were talking about, because it is very relevant to your journey, and it could help you. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. I think with a psych or even a counsellor or even your friends, like don't be afraid to talk to people. There's nothing wrong with a venting partner.
Yeah, give people a chance. It's people, when I was going through all my stuff, all the ones that I thought I couldn't talk to turned out to be the ones I could.
100%. I know that.
They saved my life by me just going, screw it. I'm just going to lay the cards out and see what happens. I was amazed at the ones who actually picked up the deck.
Yeah, wow. That's a good analogy. Yeah, for sure. But, you've got to, I think you eventually it has to come out somewhere, and if you don't do it consciously and direct it where it needs to go, the shit will just start showing up in your life and destroying it in ways that you're not even sure why or how. So you've got to get it, you've got to get it looked at.
Yep.
100%.
So that's good. That's good. And, I think, as I said, I think it's important to note as well that, for the four of us, we still face a lot of this shit as well. That's the nature of life. There is no life without problems. Doesn't exist.
That's right. Nobody's perfect. That's a very true fact there. So don't think you're the only one out there. All right. All right. So is that it? We are pulling the
stuff, gents. Yeah,
pretty happy with that. Thanks everyone for coming. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I'll get it up on YouTube for everyone as soon as possible, and make sure you go check out Troy's business. He's Complete Health Geelong. Get him on Instagram or Facebook. Is it, Troy?
Yep.
And
Facebook and Instagram, and I've got a YouTube channel as well.
And a YouTube. There you go. Look out. Yep. So we're all guns a blazing here, and I look forward to speaking to everyone again. We'll hopefully get together a bit sooner. And
yes.
It's a bit hard when you got four people and you got four lives. You got to who all got to intersect at the same time. It's doesn't happen often, but all right. Well, I'll leave it at that, and I hope everyone has a good weekend.
That was good. You too, brother. Speak to you soon.
Thanks,
See you later.
See you later.